All right, welcome back. I'm finishing a cigarette, so I apologize. Um, I did an elderberry one a little bit ago. I've been sitting on a Willow Ranch one, but I'm going to redo it. I think with this one today. Business wise, we're not bad. We've been pretty busy this week or last week, and even with some Willow Ranch business. So that's always exciting to be able to talk to folks from the Willow Ranch. We uh, we should have a pretty busy week. I think I go to Harpo's this week, and then we have a meeting that had to be postponed before with a minor league baseball team with me and a client in that team. So I'm hoping for good things. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about the Willow Ranch, and I'm going to jump around a little bit because I noticed on the first one I did, it didn't really cover everything. I don't know if I was in a hurry or we. I was working for a company called Total Armor, and how they offset what they were paying me. They couldn't what I wanted. They couldn't pay straight out of Detroit Armor or Total Armor. So they had another security license with a company called All Security, and they wanted to do some stuff with it. And then the owner's kid, he plays in a band, and he had a lot of contacts, so he was able to help with some things. But me and Adam had to go out there and talk to the promoter and the owner. Only the owner was there, but we were able to talk to the promoter on the phone. So me and Adam drove out there and talked to Ben Willow, which is an amazing, amazing guy. Like, he's one of those guys that they're going to make a movie out of. It's going to happen, and I'm actually quite surprised they haven't yet. So when we go to this property, there's two entrances. There's the venue entrance, and then there's where he actually lives. So we had him pulled where he actually lives, and we walked around a little bit and talked to him, and he liked Adam better. I don't know, it's because I shook hands too hard or what it was, but he just Adam was a likable guy. So I kind of let Adam run the lead, as far as communications with him. And I talked with Jimmy Valentine, which was the promoter. These events were the Hoodly Doo, which was the first one, and then Peace Fest, which was also the same weekend of Ben's birthday. So we got the gig, several months later. We only show, we were so naive. I mean, we brought an RV because we did a little event for the Dailies, Sarah and John Daly. They had an event called Cabin Piva in April or something, I think it was, or May. And, so we got familiar with some of the people in the neighborhood. We had a run in with a little gypsy lady. I got the RV stuck. Adam wasn't real thrilled, but he was able to pull through, and then we did all right. But so we show up to Willow Ranch with four people, and it was me, Adam, and then one of my old guards from Macomb Mall, and he was one of our troublesome guards. So I knew, there was going to be something, but he's one of those guys that loves the business so much. I knew he was going to say yes. I mean, he wasn't my last choice, so I don't want to put him down or anything like that. He does do good. I don't know what's going on with my collar, but he doesn't pay attention real well sometimes. He's the guy, if you ever hear me talk about the Macomb Mall stories, he's the guy that, like to pick up chicks doing karate in their stores, But, so, and it was actually funny because I told him we were going in an RV, and when he pulled up, Adam wasn't here yet, but there was people next door were moving out or moving in or something, so there was a rider. So he almost left because he thought that was the RV I was talking about, but it wasn't. So, we'd get there early because I always allow the guys to get familiar with where they're working, and let them have a little fun. I mean, especially with such a small crew, you're working, 16, 18, 19 hours a day, and that's what they agreed to. That's why. Of course, I didn't really know the numbers we were walking into. That wasn't initially clear. But we got in the RV. We got down there. Adam and Mark kind of got into it on the way there over some beer. When Adam finally stopped, Mark didn't have any money. Um, but Wesley, he's a guy from Total Armor. He was I don't know if he still is, but at that time he was a reserve cop per Oak Park or Highland Park or something. So I think he bought Mark beer or something. And Wesley is a pretty stout guy. I mean, he 6'6", 290 maybe. I don't think he's that now. I think he's probably down to 260 or 250 now, but he was a pretty big dude. So when we got there, we brought a golf cart, one of Adam's, but we only brought one. Okay, so when we get there, we unload everything. Initially, everything's great. We walk around, see the setup, and then the golf cart starts having an issue. Adam works on it, through the night, gets it running again a little bit for the morning. I think we used it for maybe an hour and a half, and then it broke down again. So we finished that weekend without a golf cart. We walked it. We walked the whole thing. And Willow Ranch, I think, is 50 acres, 45 acres. It's pretty big. And the worst part about it, a lot of it's sand. It's got that Lake Michigan sand. It's not maybe 10 miles from Lake Michigan, but it has the dune type feel on a lot of it. So it's tough to walk through. I think I started out in boots and I ended up in tennis shoes. Those are the lessons that you learn. And then we actually had an armed. I think Wesley was armed. And I want to say Mark might have been, because Mark was somewhat of a reserve officer also. So I'm not sure who that was. But Jackson's going to go look. So it was rough. And then, like I said, it wasn't really clear on the numbers when we walked into, they were suspecting 20 or 1,500 to 3,500, and I worked events with 3 or 4 people for those numbers before, and even some a little bit higher. So I wasn't really sweating it. Everybody knew what they were walking into. It wasn't that number. It was upwards of 5 or 6, and the headliner was like Wookie Foot or something, and I've obviously heard of them, but it was probably my most exposure to Wookiees up to that point. I've worked them in other events and ran into them, but to where 90% of them are these people, it gets a little weird. And we went to the Willow Ranch because they've been having events for years, and it got to the point to where issues not only happening in the ranch, but issues that were sprawling out of the ranch into the township. The township had enough, and they wanted them to shut down. So basically, the ultimatum was to, after going to township hall meetings and that such a thing, that they needed either law enforcement or they needed the higher licensed security. So we knew there was, potential for trouble. Of course, everyone, had to be worried about this guy. All those guys that they said to be worried about, most of them were bullies. They were, that area is more of a hippie crowd. You know what I mean? So they don't want to get violent with anybody. That's really not what they're about, especially at the Willow Ranch and Ben Willow. They don't want that. You know what I mean? It's in a pretty amazing pace, and the stuff that they were doing was pretty amazing. So, they didn't want that problem. But those our first event there, I think we called the cops. I think we took 2 or 3 people to jail, or we didn't take, but there was incidents where we had to handle that ended up with people going to jail. Um, and they were all assault. I think Adam had one Friday night or Saturday night where, some 20-year-old hit some 50 or 60-year-old woman. And I want to say the other two were domestics. Like one was her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend was there with somebody else and felt that he shouldn't be there because she was there, um, and you just couldn't deal. I mean, she was just she was ignorant to the fact, she was just going to get her way, and that was just it. And he was a little more understanding, although I mean, he ended up leaving and they just come back. We got him another site the next day somewhere else, and I don't think there was an issue after that. But and I think we had one medical or maybe two medicals. One was the guy overheated in his tent, so dehydration. And then the other one was I think that's the one where these people brought this lady, that she just got out of a mental facility, after some kind of breakdown, and they bring her to a music festival where it's all dark and they allow her to drink and do drugs. Me and Adam ran across her, and she had a blade, and she was sitting in the middle of this camp. The back half of it loops around, and it's a trail of campers, or not campers, but campsites. And she was sitting in the middle of it, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and sawing at her wrist with a blade. So we had to end up handling that. Other than that, it was pretty laid back. Like I said, the numbers were huge. I mean, so we were busy, but we pulled it off, and it was only 4 of us. It was me, Adam, a guy named Mark, and a guy named Wesley Krause, Mark Mazalusik, and then Adam Moody. And it was a pretty amazing weekend. We learned a lot, wore ourselves out because of walking. We learned a lot of lessons. Same thing with the radios. We kind of went with just any radio, and necessarily since somebody was going to be near the front, we just had 2, I mean, because the other position, the person, you could see them, and you know what I mean? So, but we learned lessons that everybody needed radios, even though, I thought that way, but, we didn't, we got a little money up front, but, me and Adam had to pull all that together, including gas, and every time we had the RV, Adam cooked Saturday night, so everybody ate real well Saturday night. Steaks we had before, barbecue chicken, roast that he did before. He would put together some pretty good meals, and we'd even take care of their breakfasts. So, and that's actually kind of a funny story. At the end of this one, but it was Wookie foot, and then something cheese. I think the streak cheese incident was there, and a lot of these bands they grind their way to making extra money, and sometimes you have to deal with those issues too. But we'll talk about that later. But the first event was called Hooly Doo, and it was at the Willow Ranch. It was pretty amazing. Not only that, Ben Willow, he gets up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and you can see him walking around the ranch or driving his bus around the ranch, and the conversations that especially after Adam passed, that him and I would have so early in the morning, where I mean they were life changing to me. They because the Willow Ranch is almost like the island of misfit toys. You know what I mean? A lot of broken people go there for healing, and and I even tell the years going there, you're going to a place where people go to get away from people like us, so you got to remember that when you're dealing with them. But it turned out real well. Like I said, we were busy. I think it was June. Like I said, it was called Hooly Doo. We would come back in a month for Peace Fest, and we'll talk about that the next one. But it was the very first time. Not only that, like I said, at that time, the Dailies, they owned a gas station store called Mr. Grocery, and they were friends with Ben Willow. I mean, so they would set up, like a store at the festival, ice and cigarettes and anything you could possibly need. I mean, there'd only be two brands of cigarettes, but still cigarettes. And those people helped us out so much. I mean, because he would allow me to run a tab, and then I would have to run into him later on in the festival to make sure we were squared away. But those people helped us so much. It was, due to political issues at the ranch, they end up going to a different festival. So there's a couple other people. We stayed neutral as possible. I did, later on in life, I don't say I took sides, but, I kind of, I don't know. It's if you ever get a chance to go out to South Haven, it's beautiful. The beach is nice. They got a little road course raceway, Gingerman Raceway out there. But if you're looking for a place to camp and they're 420 friendly, um, head to the Willow Ranch. It's like I said, they got a couple of events this year. If you are looking for something to do and you don't want to pay that, the couple $100 for some of the bigger festivals, you would probably get more out of the events at the Willow Ranch. So that's it. That's the first night at the Willow Ranch, or actually the first weekend at the Willow Ranch. Adam did real well. He ran the midnights at that time, and then, like I said, he did all the loading and unloading. I'm gonna post a picture of the night that we got there, and then the Sunday right when we get ready to leave. Hooly Doo, there's a good story about me and Wesley, but or not Hooly Doo, but Michigan Peace Fest with the Gypsy Lady. So that's it. We'll see you. Thanks.